Hey guys, Joelle from FromScratchFarmstead.com here, and our family grows a ton of winter squashes. They're one of our favorite storage crops that we grow. We grow over 100 of them, and we're commonly asked, what do we do with all those squash? So my typical routine is that at the beginning of every week, I will roast a couple butternut squash and puree them to have on hand all week long. So I'm gonna show you exactly what we do and how we use them. We love winter squash because it's super versatile and you can add it to so many things. So pureed butternut squash makes a great addition to any soup or stew. I love to throw it into chili. You can mix it with ground beef, or even it's a perfect substitute for pumpkin in any baked goods. So making butternut squash puree is super simple. All you're gonna do is take your butternut squash and you wanna cut it in half and remove all of the seeds. So you're gonna scoop out all the seeds. You can roast them if you want, you can throw them in the compost, give them to your chickens. That's what we're doing with them today. But you wanna scoop out all those seeds, and then you're gonna place the cut butternut squash in half on a large baking dish of some kind. So you wanna make sure the baking dish has rims because that's gonna produce liquid, but you just wanna put them flesh side down on a large rimmed baking sheet. And then you're gonna toss them into your oven at about 400 degrees and let them cook for, these I did for 40 minutes. It's gonna depend on the size of your squash. If you are roasting a really huge butternut squash, that time might be an hour. But if it's gonna be smaller butternut squash, it might be 30 minutes. So depending on the size is how long you're gonna cook that butternut squash. But I found 400 degrees, usually 40 to 45 minutes, works well for any medium-sized butternut squash. So after your butternut squash comes out of the oven, what you're gonna do is you're just gonna wanna make sure that the outside is nice and soft, right, and squishy. Like you could take a fork and prick it and it's gonna be really soft. So then you're gonna pull it out of your oven once it's soft, and you wanna flip it over right away. So flipping over your butternut squash is just gonna help it cool faster, because at this point the butternut squash is gonna be way too hot to handle to turn into a puree. So you wanna let it cool for a good 15 or 20 minutes until it's cool enough to handle. So flipping over the butternut squash just helps to make that process go faster. And then once your butternut squash are cooled, it is time to scoop out that flesh and then puree it. Now I love to actually use butternut squash over even like pie pumpkins, because I find that pie pumpkins tend to make a lot more liquid and kind of get more soggy almost, but butternut squash are really thick and creamy, so I find that they make the perfect puree, and they substitute perfectly 1-to-1 for any pumpkin puree, but you don't have to worry about straining out any liquid, which makes it way easier. Sometimes the skins will kind of fall apart on you if it's been cooked for a pretty long time. So you just want to make sure, try to scoop out all the flesh, but leave the skins out of your puree. So scooping out the butternut squash flesh is an easy job, but it is a little bit messy. So go wash your hands, and then you're gonna puree your squash. So I like to do this with an immersion blender. You can use a regular blender or a food processor too, but I found the immersion blender works really well. I see a seed in there. All right, get that out, and then we're gonna go ahead and just puree this, and that's it. All right, so there you have your smooth and creamy butternut squash puree. This week we're gonna be using this for making a double batch of our butternut squash muffins, and then I'll use whatever is left to throw in what we call a pumpkin chili, or kind of just a catch-all chili. And it goes perfect in that to just add a nice, really sweet and smooth and creamy texture. So that's how you can make your own butternut squash puree at home. Stock up on those butternut squashes now while they're in season and use them for the rest of the year. So thanks so much for stopping by the farmstead today, and we'll see you next time.